Welcome to WhiskyCast, cask strength conversation featuring news and interviews from the world of whiskey. I'm Mark Gillespie, and this is episode number 1154 for March 22nd, 2026. Coming up in a few minutes.
What we do see is small entrepreneurs still who want to keep things small, want to keep things local, want to own their own backyard, and also want to make a good product.
The whiskey industry is evolving, and with it the need for professional education. Louisville's Moonshine University is evolving with it. I'll talk with Operations Manager Clay Smith and General Manager Jason Lawrence later on WhiskyCast In-Depth. We'll also have the What I'm Tasting This Week department, Behind the Label, and much more. The news is next on this week's WhiskyCast, whiskey's longest-running and most awarded podcast series.
Hey, it's Gabriel from Dewar's Whiskey. Here's a quick tip. Whenever you're pouring great whiskey, especially something like Dewar's 12-year, don't overthink it. All you need is a few glasses and a couple of people worth sharing it with. The rest takes care of itself. Back in a bit.
Let's get started with the news. Waterford Distillery has been bought out of receivership. Tennessee Distilling Group is buying the Irish plant and the Waterford intellectual property for €6 million and plans to create a more approachable Waterford Irish whiskey. TDG is not buying the existing stocks of Waterford whiskey, estimated at some 70,000 casks. Those are being sold separately by the receivers through a new Prestige Casks online platform. Waterford founder Mark Rainier had hoped to buy back the distillery, but is now focused on raising capital to buy some of the casks he and his team laid down. It's been a busy week for lawyers in the Uncle Nearest receivership case. Early in the week, founder Fawn Weaver filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy for Uncle Nearest and the Nearest Green Distillery, despite the judge in the receivership case ordering previously that only the court-appointed receiver has the power to take the companies into bankruptcy. 2 days later, the bankruptcy court threw out the Chapter 11 case for that very reason. Fawn Weaver plans to appeal the dismissal. She's also facing possible sanctions from the court in the receivership case. The judge in that case also ruled this week that the sale of Uncle Nearest's Martha's Vineyard property cannot go forward without following a precise set of steps that haven't been followed so far by the receiver. In other news, the Irish government plans to open a public comment period on the Irish whiskey technical file in the coming weeks. The Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine will take comments for 2 months before deciding whether to consider changes in the production standards for Irish whiskey. Distillers have sought to tweak the current standards for single pot still Irish whiskey to allow for more non-barley grain in the mash bill. The current limit is 5%, but craft distillers want to be able to use as much as 30% of oats and other grains in line with historic recipes. There's also a push to require the use of Irish grain, which is not currently part of the technical file. That and some other proposed changes would have to be approved by the European Commission in Brussels. Bushmills has asked the local council on Northern Ireland's Causeway Coast for permission to build 26 new maturation warehouses. The $84 million project is the second part of Bushmills' expansion plans that started with the opening of the Causeway Distillery in 2024. New whiskeys of note this week. Glenmorangie is adding a new 30-year-old single malt to its permanent lineup. The whiskey will be available exclusively at the distillery and the Glenmorangie boutique shop at London Heathrow Terminal 5. Heaven Hill has introduced a 15-year-old Elijah Craig single-barrel bourbon to its lineup. It's bottled at 54% ABV, a nod to May 4th. Not just Star Wars Day, but the anniversary of the date that the U.S. Congress officially recognized bourbon as a distinctive product of the U.S. back in 1964. The bourbon will carry a recommended retail price of $149.99 a bottle. Bardstown Bourbon Company is releasing a Garyana oak-finished bourbon using Gary oak from the Pacific Northwest. Cascadia Garyana oak barrel finished bourbon is made from 9 and 10-year-old bourbons, finished for 10 months in specially made Gary oak casks. The Distillery Reserve release is available exclusively at the Bardstown Bourbon Company Distillery and Tasting Room in Louisville for $99.99 a bottle. Just down the road, Bardstown's Preservation Distillery is releasing its first batch of Rare Perfection 10-year-old bourbon. It's uncut and unfiltered at 65.35% ABV and comes from a small batch of just 3 barrels. It joins the Rare Perfection lineup of 9, 14, and 15-year-old bourbons. I received a sample this week. I'll have my tasting notes for it soon at WhiskyCast.com. Kentucky Peerless is about to release its first 10-year-old bourbon since the brand was revived in 2014. Peerless Henry Craver's Old Reserve Bourbon is named for Peerless founder Henry Craver and will be an annual release on Craver's birthday, April 22nd, at the distillery in downtown Louisville. R.J. Cooper & Sons has released 2 new lock, stock, and barrel rye whiskeys. One is a vatted rye made with whiskeys between 8 and 16 years old. The second is a 21-year-old rye whiskey. It was distilled at Alberta Distillers, and the barrels were selected by the late Rob Cooper. The vatted rye sells for around $85 a bottle, while the 21-year-old carries a $500 price tag. I have samples of both, and will have my tasting notes for them soon at WhiskyCast.com. Suntory Global Spirits has released the year's first batch of Booker's Bourbon. This one is named the Big Easy in honor of New Orleans, which was one of the late Booker No's favorite cities. It carries an age statement, to be precise, of 7 years, 2 months, and 15 days. And it's bottled at 64.55% ABV. It's priced at $100 a bottle. Old Forester is out with the latest release in its 117 series of limited edition whiskeys. The High Angels Share Rye comes from barrels that saw more than their fair share of evaporation, leaving behind a concentrated rye whiskey. It's available for $64.99 a bottle at the Old Forester Distillery in downtown Louisville and at select Kentucky retailers. Scotland's Lady of the Glen Independent Bottler has released its latest tranche of whiskeys, including what may be one of the oldest Delminock bottlings on record, a 10-year-old finished in an ex-Oloroso sherry barrel. There's also a 20-year-old Port Charlotte and a 13-year-old Mortlock in the outturn. Kilhoman has released a new limited edition single malt finished in ex-Maury wine casks. Maury is a sweet fortified wine produced in the south of France, and the whiskey spent its entire maturation in the Maury casks. It's available in the UK for £75 a bottle. And finally, we reported on the rarest Japanese whiskey ever released, the Shirakawa 1958, back at the Whiskey Show in October of 2022. Only 1,500 bottles were produced. One is now on the whiskey menu at Gordon Ramsay's Lucky Cat restaurant in London. The price tag, £2,300 a dram. You can keep up on the latest whiskey news all week long at WhiskyCast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app. It's a busy week in the whiskey world, so let's open up the calendar and see just what's happening. First off, the Kentucky Bourbon Festival has announced that tickets for this year's festival will go on sale April 13th to subscribers to the festival's email newsletter and the next day to the general public. The festival runs from September 10th through the 13th. And Royal Mile Whiskies is now selling tickets for this year's Whiskey Fringe from August 7th through the 9th in Edinburgh, Scotland. Coming up this week, the Burns Pub in Denver has a tasting Tuesday night with whiskeys from Bunnahabhain, Deanston, Tobermory, and Lecheg. The Kensington Wine Market in Calgary, Alberta has a tasting of Gordon & MacPhail's Cairn 57 range that same night. Tickets are still available for the Bardstown Bourbon Company dinner at Bourbon's Bistro in Louisville on Wednesday night. The weekend brings us Whiskey Live London and the Cork Whiskey Fest in Ireland. And the Brandy Library has a World Whiskey Spirit School class on Saturday afternoon in New York City. If you're organizing a whiskey event, let us know about it. We'll add it to the calendars at WhiskyCast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app.
Throughout the years, Dewar's has created some incredible whiskeys, but our new Dewar's 12-year-old, that one's a personal favorite. It's the kind of scotch that earns praise from the pros, but still feels right at home in the middle of a good night with friends. Every pour opens up with notes of vanilla, toffee, baking spice, and a smooth oak finish. It's rich, it's approachable, and it has a way of bringing people together. Whether it's around the table, the fireplace, or just wherever the night happens to take you. Look, the glasses may hold the whiskey, but the whiskey, that's what holds the moment. Please enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025, Dewar's is a trademark. Imported by John Dewar & Sons Company, Coral Gables, Florida. Blended Scotch whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume.
Thanks to everyone who joined us last Monday night for our St. Patrick's Day Eve live stream with Glendalough head distiller Rowdy Rooney. If you missed it, check the WhiskyCast YouTube channel for an on-demand replay stream. WhiskyCast In-Depth is brought to you by Glendalough Irish Whiskey. There are a handful of places one can go to learn the art and science of whiskey making. A few universities offer degree programs in brewing and distilling, but for those who don't want to spend 4 years getting a degree, there's Moonshine University in Louisville. It offers intensive short courses in everything one needs to know to become a distiller, from fermentation and sensory analysis classes to a 5-day complete course on distilling, along with Stave and Thief Society executive bourbon steward classes for whiskey lovers and those working in the hospitality industry. Moonshine University has had to adjust its offerings to change with the times, and I spent some time on a Zoom call this week with General Manager Jason Lawrence and Distillery Operations Manager Clay Smith. First of all, how's the demand for coursework these days? Since the bourbon industry appears to be in a bit of a downturn.
Yeah, I mean, so we experience that just like everybody else. When things take a downturn, education is one of the first things that, unfortunately, is something that goes. However, we're seeing we're shifting a lot of our focus as well. We've traditionally been focused with like our flagship course, like our 6-day distilling course, which is now our 5-day distilling course. We've truncated that a little bit. We didn't cut a thing out of it, but we've gotten just more efficient over the years at delivering the information that people need. And then we're shifting kind of focus a little bit to more consumer-driven endeavors as well. So.
Yeah, that class, the 5-day distiller course, when people were opening more distilleries, there was a demand for that class to happen 5 times a year. And we're having it 2 times this year, and it's still a great class and a lot of great information in there. But seeing, it's not as many people are opening distilleries from the ground up, especially right now. Not seeing as much demand for it. On the enthusiast side, though, on the hospitality and enthusiast side of things, we are seeing strong numbers. So that side of it is encouraging, knowing that people are still interested in that side.
For those who are not familiar with Moonshine University, give me the background.
So we began in 2013, had our first classes in 2013. So we've been going strong for 13, 14 years now, just before 2013. So, and at the time, during the craft boom, there was no clear one place to go and learn everything there was to know about owning and operating and beginning a new endeavor like starting a distillery. So we saw a gap and a need in the industry for just that. And over the years, while the name Moonshine University is kind of cheeky, and we wish we could change it to on some days, I think we've grown beyond the cheekiness of it through reputation. People know that they can come here and get the highest quality education in the spirits industry that is available, quite honestly. So,
Yeah, I was just at the James B. Beam conference in Lexington, Kentucky here, and did get a couple questions of, oh, Moonshine University, do you do any other spirits? And
Yeah.
it's like, well, actually, we talk very little about moonshine, mostly about all the other ones. So that's still out there, some that kind of misrepresentation, but I think we're pretty well known. The owner, Dave Defoe, does tell a really good story often at the beginning of our 5-day distiller course of kind of the whole arc of this company, but also our sister company, Flavorman, which is a beverage development company, which began in 1992. And Dave was at a conference at the ADI conference in 08, 09, and saw that exactly what Clay said, that there wasn't really a place to go for people to learn how to start their own distillery, and got the idea for Moonshine University then.
You recently added a product and brand development course for people who need that kind of training. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Clay.
Yeah, I mean, so that's part of the shift in the focus of kind of what we're interested in providing the industry at this stage. Just as things kind of develop with distilleries kind of either slowing down or sometimes even closing their doors, unfortunately, we're seeing on the other side of that, there is never been more good juice available for folks out there on the barrel market and product for product development. And so that's an interesting kind of change, but it also necessitates an even more interesting kind of change for how we deal with that and how that model kind of comes to market and has some success. So we've done our kind of due diligence in researching exactly what's happening in the market to provide that need as well. So again, this is a pivoting effort from our traditional, hey, I want to start a distillery, make everything myself, grow from the ground up, from greenfield to finished bottle. Now we're seeing that same kind of crossover into, well, maybe I don't have to do all of this. Maybe there's a lot of good juice out there. I can find this. I can make something that has a gap in the market that I can provide that's a little more interesting and be able to be a brand owner that way. We've kind of always seen that model to some degree, but now the industry is rife and prepared for it, I think.
Give me your take on the state of the bourbon industry, Jason.
Oh, Clay might have an even better answer than me here. I mean, I think that the conversation has been for a while some doom and gloom and some what are the problems? Why are things down? Is Gen X not drinking? Is THC and other products taking over? But then when we talk to the people that we know, and particularly craft people and some people with smaller brands and everything, they're doing very well, and they're really excited about the opportunities in the market. And that's part of where this class came from, was just seeing that it wasn't all doom and gloom, and there was excitement in the market. So trying to gear something around that sort of excitement and a model that could really tap into the potential and the possibilities. The people that I hear from that are excited about it are really experimenting with everything from finishing techniques to new kinds of blending techniques, really diving into the possibilities with the available bourbon that's out there at better prices, and just really excited about I really love the sensory aspect of everything, and really playing around with different flavor profiles and really trying to understand where flavors come from. And I think it's a really exciting time for that. People are really getting away from the traditional and really starting to get excited about that. So I don't think the conversation is still about long-term success and getting back to to a level that things were at a few years ago, but I don't know if that's realistic. I think that there was a real boom, and there's been a correction, and it's not a doom and gloom. It's not the sky is falling, but more of a correction, and really can be thought of as an exciting time for new expressions and getting a little bit away from the traditional.
Clay?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. The only thing that I see, and I tell people this, our demographic of students for the past like 5 or 6 years maybe, we used to get these guys who were well-heeled, well-funded, and I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars ready to drop on a brand new distillery that had enormous capacity that could, rival some of the largest brands out there. And they'd never distilled a drop in their life. And they thought they were going to come in and they were going to take over the world, right? We don't see any of those guys much anymore. What we do see is small entrepreneurs still who want to keep things small, want to keep things local, want to own their own backyard, and also want to make a good product, and they are definitely not capitalized to the point where, they have these millions of dollars to spend. This is a very capital intense business, but so you have to have a little bit of that and to be able to use it wisely. And that's kind of where we're seeing the shrinking, at least from our perspective, because we don't really have any brands, in the traditional sense of products out there. We do have a few that we have from time to time, but it's all centered around the educational experience, right? And so it's kind of, we don't have the same view as some, brand owners that are looking at the bottom line every day. And seeing, what the trends are and what how to kind of maneuver their business in light of that. We see it from a very third party perspective a little bit too. So I think, yes, we are in a correction. We are, I think the days of, barrels going for, $4,500, $5,000 for Kentucky bourbon, that a 4-year-old bourbon, are long gone. That we won't see those numbers come back, especially with the competitiveness that is happening right now with a lot of the guys who did get open and are, producing new make and laying down barrels. That's an extremely competitive place right now.
Jason, you mentioned being at the Bean Conference a couple of weeks ago. How much competition do you have now from the universities that are offering distilling programs? For instance, UK, but also I think Western Kentucky and Niagara College up in Canada. These schools that are offering formal distilling degree programs.
Yeah, I think that's. I don't really think of them as competition. It is, I would say, but it's getting to people. I mean, I absolutely applaud any younger students, in college or grad school. Obviously, being 21, but I think of younger than our demographic really getting in a program like that where they can really get intensive for a long time. We don't offer something where somebody could come and study with us for a semester or anything like that. So a pretty different model, and I think that's exciting that people can really devote their education to that in that way. And I think that there's opportunity for us to work with a school like that if there were further education or experiments or things like that. I don't think that we have to be competition in the same way. We provide this shorter term education typically for people that are either already in the industry or wanting to get into the industry. So I think it's a slightly different approach, and that there's room for all of us there.
Clay?
Yeah, I mean, the sort of symbiosis that can happen between us which is a very short form, intensive educational experience, and the longer, more in depth, more for lack of a better term, like tedious and long form educational experience, like at UK. I like working with those guys as much as we can. I mean, and there is a little bit of crossover, but we're not necessarily competing for students. That's not kind of how it's set up. We're providing different models of two sides of the industry. I mean, Jason just came back from presenting at the Beam Conference, which is tied to the UK program in that as well. And we're happy to be involved in those types of endeavors as well. Research, educational experiences, and just the kind of general talk around what's going on in the industry and what people are seeing. So, yeah.
We've talked about the industry side of things. Let's switch over and talk about the consumer training that you provide through the Executive Bourbon Steward course in the Stave and Thief Society. Tell me about these courses that you're running about once a month.
Yeah, so the Stave and Thief Society started in 2015. Just from seeing a need or a desire to talk more about bourbon here. Really, that's kind of what we say. We really wanted to. We're in the heart of bourbon country here, and just wanted to get really deeper into it with people, not just in the distillery side, but consumers, hospitality, bartenders, whoever was interested in it, and that's how the Stave and Thief Society was born. So. We have multiple levels to becoming a bourbon steward. People can become an associate bourbon steward by just ordering a book online and taking an online test with us. And it's online. And then the executive level is a day-long class. As you said, we hold it about once a month here. There's also an online version of that class, but we really love teaching the in-person class where we operate out of that same book, but we have a distillery experience. People go out into the distillery with clay 3 times, and there's hands-on bourbon making from start to finish. And then in the classroom, we do a lot of sensory training. So we really go over everything from the classifications, the definitions, what to look for on a label, and the production and barrel aging, and then some of the hospitality things. But we really get deep into the sensory exercises and really pride ourselves on doing that in class.
Is this designed more for the consumer or for the hospitality industry professional who needs a certification?
Both. It really is for both. I've noticed. I've been seeing the value for people that really want that certification a lot lately. We've had some partnerships with places like Lush Life, who we really love, and getting the program out to some bartenders recently that otherwise wouldn't have known about it or wouldn't have taken it, and seeing how excited they are to get that certification and put that on their resume. I've really started to see more and more that is a big value to people. And I think there's a lot of trust in us that if someone is certified through us, that they know what they're talking about. So I very much see the value of that, but also I think people that just want to be part of the community and prove that they have something of value to say about bourbon, and just to be a part of the community and have fun with it. It's very much for them as well. I think just having confidence in knowing what you like and being able to kind of back it up and feel confident that you've tried enough things and you have the knowledge to back up what you like is a good feeling.
Clay, what do you teach them in the distillery?
Yeah. So in that class, I mean, we have a hands-on experience that takes it pretty much from all the mechanics of the making of bourbon. From, believe it or not, we've had people come in class and never seen kind of raw corn, in its raw format, in dried format. And they'll be like, "This is corn? I thought that you were going to bring me cobs." but it's just they get the opportunity to get their hands a little dirty, and as dirty as they want to be, really, and see things, smell it, be in the environment, and understand what a distillery kind of does on a daily basis in production. We mash in, we transfer a completed fermentation over for distillate side, so they get to see almost every part of that process, with the exception of the fermentation time being removed, because it's a 1 day experience, right? And speaking to what kind of Jason had said about which is it for frontline hospitality folks, or is it for enthusiasts? It's honestly for both. And now we're seeing that crossover to a point where we get a group of people that are looking for maybe this is their first foray into seeing, do they want to go further? Do they want to develop a brand? Do they want to go on the other side of the aisle or the industry and say, I'm just going to try this real quick, and then we have this kind of expansive experience for them in the bourbon world, and then that can inform them whether or not, yes, I want to do this or not. Because believe it or not, people that have dreams of owning and operating their own distillery, they get glossy-eyed when they look at shiny copper. But the truth of the matter is, you're covered in dust, and you're covered in dirt, and you're wet, and you're hot, and you're sweaty, and you're toting around 50-pound bags of materials, and things don't always smell good. You don't always smell good, so we get accused a lot of times of trying to convince people not to start their own distilleries, but the truth of the matter is, we just want them to have the reality of what this industry is and what it looks like. And if you can get a little taste of that, even from the executive bourbon steward experience, people come into it just a little bit more better informed. So,
I think that does it. Anything else you can add I didn't ask about?
We're expanding the executive. The Statement Thief Society coming up very soon into different categories as well. So the next step is going to be gin, but look for more. I know you have a big Scotch and Irish following with your readers or your listeners as well, and we're working with the best people on that side of the industry as well to kind of program it correctly. And to get the correct information in a fun, engaging, and non-threatening, if you want to say that, that just come learn, come see this stuff, understand it on a level that you might not get just reading a book or just watching video or what might be.
And that's what one other thing I wanted to say when Clay described the product and brand development class really well. The thought that I had about it was that it gave us, having some new offerings, and this one in particular gave us the chance to work with some new presenters. One of my favorite things about being here, I've been here about 5 years now, is the people that come in to work with us. It's such a great, interesting industry in terms of how welcoming and thoughtful and creative the people are. So having a new offering and being able to work with, Jeremy Dever came in here quite a bit over the years for a panel, but couldn't work with him, hadn't found a way to work with him more. So him and Jade Peterson, who I know was just on your podcast recently, started Trackside, and they're going to be a part of this class, talking about that, kind of sharing their playbook, and lots of other presenters, guys from Pursuit, et cetera, being able to kind of expand our roster of people that are associated with us has been such an exciting thing for me. And I think that's such a value of the class, is getting a connection to all these people in the industry, because they're all so welcoming and willing to help, and they want to help other people. I think that's special.
You'll find a link to Moonshine University's website in the show notes for this episode at whiskycast.com, and we've added all of their courses for the rest of this year to our calendars at the website and in the WhiskyCast community app. That's WhiskyCast In-Depth, brought to you by Glendalough Irish Whiskey.
Our story begins in the wilds of County Wicklow, the Garden of Ireland, a place where nature moves slowly and meaningfully. Some whiskies blend in. Glendalough Double Barrel stands apart. I'm Rowdy Rooney, head distiller here at Glendalough, and I personally oversee our whiskey making process from start to finish. We do things slowly, and we do them right. We start with a smooth, single-grain Irish whiskey. We age it in flame-charred American oak for soft vanilla and a honeyed depth. Then we finish it in Oloroso casks from a small bodega in Spain. Casks we season and ship ourselves to make sure the wood is still alive with character when it arrives. That kind of care gives Glendalough Double Barrel its rich layers of dried fruit, warm spice, and signature smoothness. This is a whiskey at its own pace, and it's worth every second. This is Glendalough Double Barrel, crafted to stand apart.
Let's start off the What I'm Tasting This Week department with the new Lagavulin Sweet Peat Isla Single Malt. I received a sample this week. It's aged in ex-bourbon casks and bottled at 43% ABV. The nose has a honey and caramel sweetness with a gentle peatiness and touches of heather and dried flowers in the background. The taste starts off with honey and caramel, followed by a slow build-up of white pepper and peat smoke. Dried fruits, heather, and dark chocolate notes add balance and complexity. The finish is long and gentle with a kiss of smoke, and I'm scoring the Lagavulin Sweet Peat Single Malt a 93. There's a new Peaky Blinders movie out, and a whiskey to go along with it. The Peaky Blinders whiskey is a bourbon finished with Irish oak staves. It's distilled at Green River in Owensboro, Kentucky, and bottled by Barrel Global at 45% ABV. The nose has touches of cherries, peaches, honey, citrus, and soft spices. The taste has a nice balance of peaches, apricots, cloves, dried flowers, and caramel. And the finish is long with touches of hazelnut, cinnamon, and a slightly mineral character. I'm scoring the Peaky Blinders whiskey a 91. Got a couple of Jimmy Red samples this week from Ann and Scott at Highwire Distilling in Charleston, South Carolina. Their new Jimmy Red Double Oak is finished in new Char No. 1 barrels and is bottled at 53.5% ABV. The nose has soft spices, brown sugar, honey, toasted oak, vanilla, and caramel. The taste is oily and thick with good baking spices, vanilla cream, brown sugar, caramel candy, and honey. The finish, long and spicy. I'm scoring the Jimmy Red Double Oak a 93. They also sent along a sample of their new Jimmy Red Cabernet finish, which was selected by the Southern Smoke Foundation for its Bottle Club. It spent 3 years in fresh oak before being transferred to Matthiasson Winery red wine casks for 4 more years before being bottled at 60.6% ABV. The nose has touches of red grapes, charred oak, soft spices, brown sugar, and a hint of plums. The taste is thick and chewy with cinnamon and chili powder spices complemented by red grapes, plums, brown sugar, and caramel. The finish is long and spicy with a touch of dark fruits, and I'm scoring the Jimmy Red Cabernet finish a 94. I'll be adding these whiskeys to our searchable list of more than 3,900 different whiskeys from around the world. Check it out this week at whiskycast.com. Let's open up the inbox now and see what people are talking about this week. I mentioned the Irish whiskey technical file debate over single pot still grain mash bills in the WhiskyCast community app this week, and Suzanne Drams fired back with this comment, "About time. Some are already doing it, just not calling it pot still." That's true. They can use a higher percentage votes in the mash bill and just call it Irish whiskey. The sale of Waterford Distillery brought a lot of comments, including this one in the app from Canuck Sloth in Canada. A bit surprised they are keeping the name. The company had mixed bag of support from the whiskey community. A number of videos from many different channels all said the same thing. Save $50 and buy Bushmill's 10-year or Jameson Stout cask. Well, for what it's worth, I had a lot of respect for what Waterford tried to accomplish. The whiskeys were usually pretty good, but the lack of a consistent product profile was what killed them off in the end. And then there's the never-ending Uncle Nearest story. In the middle of this week's bankruptcy filing and the subsequent dismissal, Bill Ricker posted this. To be quite frank, being in the hands of a court-appointed receiver is already a kind of bankruptcy, but apparently still in that phase, the receiver has the steering wheel still. It's all very sad, whatever the mix of naivete, avarice, and malice. And HRC commented with what may be the epitaph for Uncle Nearest one day. This keeps sounding worse and looking like a sad end to a promising brand with a great origin story. What's your take? Download the free WhiskyCast community app from your app store and join the conversation. You can also find us on social media. Just look for WhiskyCast on X, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Facebook. Our email address is comments@whiskycast.com. Let's close out the show now with Behind the Label, our look at the history, science, and people who make whiskey unique. Had another question directed to me on Quora this week. In learning about the construction of oak casks for making scotch, I saw that some distilleries in Scotland make their wash tuns out of Oregon pine. What do we know about any unique flavors imparted by pine? Well, Oregon pine was largely chosen because it doesn't impart any flavors at all to the fermenting mash, though some believe it does impart a nutty character. The wood also absorbs heat better than stainless steel, leading to warmer fermentations that can help the yeast work better in extracting alcohol from the sugars in the mash. Why then are many distilleries replacing their wooden wash tuns with stainless steel fermenters? Well, it's a question of efficiency. Stainless steel tanks are easier to clean than wooden washbacks, and that helps shorten the turnaround time between mashes. Also, stainless steel fermenters can be fitted with water cooling jackets that help create a consistent temperature for the yeast to work its magic. But there's still a romantic aspect to wooden mash tuns that I hope never goes away. If you have something you'd like us to look at on an upcoming episode, just get in touch with us. That's all for this episode of WhiskyCast. You'll find links for the stories in this episode in our show notes at whiskycast.com. That's also where you'll find the latest whiskey news, my tasting notes, the calendar of events, the whiskey photo of the week, and, of course, a complete archive of our past episodes going back to 2005. We'd love to hear from you. Look for WhiskyCast on Blue Sky, X, Instagram, Threads, and Facebook. Our email address, comments@whiskycast.com.
There's something special about opening a bottle of Dewar's 12-year with the people who matter most. It brings out the stories, the laughter, and the kind of moments you don't plan, but never forget. Build on tradition, made for right now, and best when shared. Dewar's 12-year-old.
WhiskyCast is a production of Cask Strength Media, copyright 2026, and comes to you each week from the charming, yet regrettably dry town of Haddonfield, New Jersey. I'm Mark Gillespie, reminding you that when you drink, please drink responsibly. Thanks for listening.